No one noticed a maid when the doors of the Golden Orchid Hotel opened that morning. She stood quietly near the marble wall, dressed in a plain gray uniform, hands folded, eyes lowered, to the guests and staff rushing past. She was invisible, just another cleaner in a hotel that served the rich and powerful. Her name was Lena Carter, and most people believed they already knew everything about her. They were wrong. That morning, the hotel buzzed with nervous energy. Every chandelier gleamed brighter than usual. Every tablecloth was perfectly aligned. The reason was simple. Mr. Victor Leong, a billionaire businessman known across Asia and America, was arriving for a private meeting. His investments could make or break companies. His presence alone could change lives. The hotel manager, Mr. Collins, paced the lobby, wiping sweat from his forehead. He had rehearsed every possible greeting. Every staff member had been warned. No mistakes. No delays. No embarrassment. Remember, Mr. Collins barked at the employees lined up near the reception. Mr. Leong hates incompetence. One wrong move and we could lose everything. Lena listened quietly from her corner. She had heard this kind of talk before. Victor Leong arrived precisely at 10 a.m., stepping out of a sleek black car. He wore a simple dark suit, but everything about him radiated power. His calm stride, his sharp eyes, the way people instinctively straightened when he passed. Mr. Collins rushed forward with a wide smile. "Mr. Leong, welcome to the Golden Orchid Hotel. It is an honor." Victor raised a hand, stopping in mid-sentence. "Save the speeches," Victor said coolly. "I care more about how a place functions than how it flatters." The smile froze on Mr. Collins' face. Victor scanned the lobby, his eyes moving slowly, from the polished floors of the nervous staff to the guests pretending not to stare. His gaze lingered for a brief second on Lena, standing still as a statue near the wall. Then he turned back to Mr. Collins. "I like to test environments," Victor said. "People behave differently when they think they're not being evaluated." Mr. Collins nodded eagerly. "Of course, sir. Whatever you need." Victor stepped forward, raising his voice just enough for the nearby staff to hear. The words flowed smoothly from his mouth, in Mandarin Chinese. The effect was immediate. Several staff members froze. Others exchanged confused looks. The receptionist blinked rapidly, clearly not understanding a single word. Mr. Collins' confident posture collapsed. Sir," the manager stammered. "I'm sorry, I didn't quite." Victor tilted his head slightly, observing their reactions with interest. "I was told this hotel prides itself on international excellence," he said in English now, his tone neutral but cutting. "Yet no one seems to understand Mandarin. Interesting." Mr. Collins laughed nervously. "Well, sir, we mostly serve English-speaking guests. Mandarin isn't really necessary." Victor finished for him. Silence spread through the lobby. Guests nearby pretended to check their phones, but everyone was listening. Victor's lips curved into a faint smile, not amusement, but of confirmation. This was exactly what he expected. He had seen this before. Grand claims of diversity, shallow execution. He turned slightly, as if preparing to move on. The voice was calm, respectful, clear. Victor stopped mid-step. "So, did everyone else?" The sound had come from behind him. Slowly, Victor turned. Lena stood exactly where she had been before, her hands still folded, her posture straight. But now her head was raised, her eyes steady. She had spoken in perfect Mandarin, her accent flawless, her tone natural, like someone who had lived with the language, not learned it from a book. "I asked if you were testing the hotel's professionalism, sir," she repeated gently. The lobby went dead silent. Mr. Collins' mouth fell open. The receptionist stared as if she had seen a ghost. A guest near the sofa whispered, "Did the maid just speak Chinese?" Victor studied Lena carefully. This time, truly looking at her, he asked. Lena replied, "Lena, I work here." "You work here?" Victor echoed, his eyes narrowing slightly. "And how long have you spoken Mandarin?" "Most of my life," Lena said simply. Mr. Collins rushed forward, panic flooding his face. "Sir, I had no idea she's just part of housekeeping. She doesn't usually stop." Victor said quietly. The word carried weight. Mr. Collins fell silent instantly. Victor turned back to Lena. Why didn't you speak earlier? Lena considered the question. No one asked. A few guests suppressed smiles. Victor let out a small breath, a sound almost like a laugh, but not quite. Where did you learn Mandarin? He asked. My grandmother raised me for many years, Lena answered. She was born in Guangzhou. She believed language was a bridge, not a tool for showing off. Victor's expression shifted just slightly. Something passed behind his eyes. Interesting, he said. Mr. Collins tried to regain control. Sir, if there's anything you need, we can arrange. Victor raised a hand again, never taking his eyes off Lena. I believe there is, he said. Tell me, Lena, do you enjoy working here? The question caught her off guard. I do my job, she said carefully. I do it well. That wasn't the question. Lena hesitated, then answered honestly. No, but it pays the bills. A murmur rippled through the room. Staff members avoided eye contact. No one ever spoke that honestly in front of management, especially not a maid. Victor nodded slowly. Honesty, he said. Rare. Mr. Collins' face turned pale. Sir, if there's been any misunderstanding, there hasn't, Victor said calmly. There's been a revelation. He turned fully toward Lena now, ignoring everyone else. You know, Victor said in Mandarin, most people assume intelligence wears a suit. Lena met his gaze. That's their mistake. A long pause followed. Victor smiled, this time genuinely. Tell me, he said, switching back to English, what else do you hide behind that uniform? I don't hide, Lena replied. People just don't look. The words hit harder than any insult. Victor glanced around the lobby, the silent staff, the uncomfortable manager, the watching guests. Then he looked back at Lena. I came here to test a hotel, he said. Instead, I may have found something far more valuable. Mr. Collins swallowed hard. Sir, what does that mean? Victor didn't answer him. Instead, he turned to Lena and said, Clear your schedule this afternoon. Lena blinked. Excuse me? I'd like to talk, Victor said, properly, about language, about potential, and about why someone like you is cleaning floors while others pretend to be global professionals. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. Lena nodded once. If my supervisor allows it. Victor finally looked at Mr. Collins. That, Victor said coolly, was not a request. Mr. Collins nodded frantically. Of course, sir. Of course. Victor turned back toward the elevators, then paused. Oh, he added casually. And Mr. Collins? Yes, sir. If this woman faces any consequences for speaking today, Victor said softly, neither you nor this hotel will ever recover financially. The message was clear. Victor walked away. Lena remained standing, heart pounding, surrounded by stunned silence. Moments later, whispers erupted across the lobby. The invisible maid was invisible no more. And this was only the beginning. By the time the elevator doors closed behind Victor Liang, the Golden Orchid Hotel felt different. Not louder, not busier, heavier. Mr. Collins stood frozen in the center of the lobby, staring at Lena as if she were a ticking time bomb. The staff who had once ignored her now avoided her gaze entirely, afraid that even a glance might associate them with whatever storm was coming next. Lena, however, returned to her duties. She picked up her cleaning cart and continued down the corridor, polishing brass railings and straightening carpets as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Inside, her thoughts raced, but years of discipline kept her face calm. Attention, she knew, was dangerous, especially when it came suddenly. At exactly 2 p.m., her radio crackled. Lena Carter, Mr. Collins said stiffly. Report to the executive lounge. The words felt unreal. She wiped her hands, smoothed her uniform, and made her way upstairs. The executive lounge was a space she had only ever entered to clean, never to sit. Victor Liang stood near the window, hand behind his back, gazing out at the city skyline. 2 bodyguards waited silently near the door. Thank you for coming, Victor said without turning around. You asked, Lena replied. He turned, studying her again, this time with curiosity rather than surprise. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair. She remained standing. "I'm fine." Another smile tugged at his lips. "Still cautious," he observed. "Good." Victor sat across from her, folding his hands neatly on the table. "I want to understand something," he said. "You speak Mandarin like a native, not academic, not rehearsed. Native. My grandmother believed children should learn before they choose," Lena said. "Language was chosen for me. And yet," Victor continued, "you work housekeeping in a hotel that doesn't even recognize your skills." Lena met his gaze. "Skills don't matter if no one asks for them." Victor nodded slowly. "You're not wrong." He switched to Mandarin again. "Eh." Lena answered immediately. "You wanted to see who would understand and who would pretend." Victor's eyes lit up. "Exactly," he said. "Most people panic when exposed. A few reveal themselves." He leaned forward. "Why didn't you apply for a better position? Front desk, translator, management." Lena hesitated. "Because I've learned something," she said carefully. "People don't like surprises from people they've already judged." Victor considered this. Then he laughed softly. "Prejudice saves them effort," he said, "and costs them excellence." He stood and paced slowly. "Tell me about your education." "I studied international relations," Lena said. "Top of my class. But scholarships don't open all doors." "Because of money?" "Because of assumptions," she corrected. Victor stopped pacing. "Then allow me to make a new assumption," he said, "that you are underutilized." Before she could respond, Victor reached into his jacket and placed a card on the table. "My company is opening an international hospitality consulting division," he said. "We advise hotels on real global service, not decorative diversity." Lena stared at the card. "I need someone who understands language, culture, and human behavior," Victor continued. "Someone who notices what others ignore." He looked directly at her. "I want you on my team." The room felt suddenly too quiet. "I'm not qualified for that," Lena said instinctively. Victor raised an eyebrow. "You corrected my phrasing earlier without insulting me. That alone qualifies you." She hesitated again. "What's the catch?" she asked. "No catch," Victor replied. "Just responsibility." Lena took a breath. "I don't want to be someone's symbol," she said. "I don't want to be paraded as proof that you're progressive." Victor's expression turned serious. "I don't collect symbols," he said. "I collect results." He paused. "And I protect talent." Lena looked at the card again. "What about this job?" she asked. Victor smiled thinly. "Consider today your last day in housekeeping," he said. As if summoned by fate, Mr. Collins burst into the lounge, sweating. "Sir, I just want to ensure everything is satisfactory." Victor turned slowly. "Your employee speaks 3 languages, understands diplomacy, and reads people better than your entire management staff," Victor said calmly. "And you had her cleaning floors." Mr. Collins stammered. We didn't know." "That," Victor said sharply, "is the problem." He stood, straightening his jacket. "Lena will be leaving this hotel," he said, "effective immediately." Mr. Collins' face drained of color. "And before you protest," Victor added, "my company will also be withdrawing its future bookings." The room spun. "Yes, yes, sir," Mr. Collins whispered. Victor turned back to Lena. "You start tomorrow," he said, "if you choose to accept." Lena looked at him for a long moment. Then she picked up the card. "I accept," she said. Victor smiled. "Good," he said, "because tomorrow we begin teaching people how invisible brilliance really looks." As Lena left the lounge, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The test was over. The transformation had begun. Lena did not sleep that night. Her small apartment felt unfamiliar, as if it belonged to someone else now. The uniform she had worn for years lay folded on the chair, suddenly heavy with memory. For a long time, she stared at it, thinking about how many times people had walked past her without seeing anything worth noticing. By morning, everything changed. A car arrived at exactly 8 a.m., black, polished, silent. The driver opened the door without a word. Lena stepped inside, her heart steady but her thoughts sharp. She had learned long ago that opportunity could disappear as quickly as it arrived. Victor Liang's headquarters occupied the top floors of a glass tower downtown. It was not flashy. No gold accents. No unnecessary luxury. Just precision, efficiency, and calm authority. Victor greeted her with a nod. "Welcome," he said. "Today is not training. It's observation." She followed him into a boardroom where executives from 3 international hotels waited. They wore expensive suits and confident smiles, until Victor spoke Mandarin without warning. Silence followed. Then Lena answered him, not translating, responding. The room shifted. Eyes turned. Whisper started. Victor watched quietly as reactions unfolded exactly as he expected. "This," he said finally, gesturing to Lena, "is what you missed." He dismissed them 10 minutes later. When the doors closed, Victor turned to her. "You see," he said, "competence reveals fear in the unprepared." Over the next weeks, Lena traveled with Victor to Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai. In each hotel, the same test. In each boardroom, the same shock. But this time, Lena was not invisible. She spoke when needed, observed always. She noticed staff who were ignored, systems that punished honesty, managers who confused politeness with respect. And she documented everything. One afternoon in Hong Kong, Victor asked, "Do you know why I chose you?" "Because I spoke Mandarin," she guessed. "No," he said, "because you didn't speak until it mattered." Her reputation grew quickly, not because Victor promoted her loudly, but because results followed her quietly. Hotels that adopted her recommendations saw immediate improvements. Fewer complaints, higher guest satisfaction, better employee retention. Still, not everyone welcomed her success. At a luxury conference in Paris, a senior executive sneered. "So you were a maid yesterday and an expert today?" Lena smiled politely. "I was an expert yesterday, too," she said. "You just didn't ask." The room went silent. Victor, watching from back, smiled. Then came the reckoning. The Golden Orchid Hotel appeared on Victor's next audit list. Mr. Collins had been warned. He had months to prepare. Diversity workshops, language classes, new signage, cosmetic changes. But Lena saw through it immediately. "Nothing meaningful changed," she told Victor after the inspection. "Only appearances." Victor nodded. "Then we respond accordingly." Within weeks, the Golden Orchid lost 3 major contracts. Reviews dropped. Staff turnover spiked. And then Victor did something unexpected. He invited hotel senior leadership, including Mr. Collins, to a public panel discussion on global excellence in hospitality. Lena sat on stage beside Victor. Mr. Collins avoided her eyes. When questions opened, Victor leaned toward the microphone. "True global service," he said, "is not about hiring diversity. It's about recognizing it." He turned to Lena. "Tell them what happens when you don't." Lena spoke calmly. "I worked here for 4 years," she said. "I spoke 3 languages. I held a degree in international relations. No one asked. No one cared." Gasps rippled through the audience. Mr. Collins' face turned red. "When talent is ignored," Lena continued, "it doesn't disappear. It goes somewhere else." The clip went viral. The Golden Orchid issued a public apology. It was too late. After the panel, Mr. Collins approached Lena. "I never meant," he began. "I know," Lena said gently. "You just never looked." She walked away. That night, Victor raised a glass. "To the unseen," he said. Lena raised hers. "And to those who finally learned to see." One section remained. The final test. The final transformation. Months passed, but Lena's life never returned to its previous rhythm. She was no longer the quiet maid who moved unnoticed down hotel corridors. She had become a force in the international hospitality world, a bridge between cultures, languages, and human behavior. Yet, despite her growing influence, she remained grounded. Excellence, she had learned, was not about recognition. It was about impact. Victor Liang had been true to his word. Lena now held a senior position in a consulting division, responsible for auditing and training high-end hotels worldwide. Her office overlooked the city skyline, but the view was not what inspired her. It was the work itself. Every hotel she assessed, every manager she trained, every overlooked staff member she mentored reminded her of where she had come from. The Golden Orchid Hotel was a constant reminder. Its decline continued, much faster than anyone had anticipated. Victor had made sure of that, but not through petty revenge. Instead, he had exposed the truth. Mediocrity thrives in silence. Lena's earlier presence there had been invisible, but now her influence had turned into a quiet reckoning. Staff members who had ignored her insight were forced to confront their biases. Managers who once assumed appearances mattered more than competence now face a reality that genuine talent could not be hidden forever. Lena traveled next to Tokyo, Dubai, and London, often accompanied by Victor, though she increasingly took independent assignments. Each location tested not just her knowledge of languages, cultural nuances, and hotel operations, but her patience, resilience, and insight into human behavior. Some managers resisted change openly. Some subtly sabotaged her recommendations. But Lena's approach was always the same: observe, understand, and act with precision. By the time she left each property, measurable improvements were evident. Revenue increased, staff morale improved, and guest satisfaction soared. One evening, in a quiet conference room in Singapore, Victor asked her to review a particularly troubled property. "This hotel," he said, "has been trying to market itself as world-class for over a decade, but they've never understood the difference between polish and professionalism." Lena smiled faintly. She had learned to appreciate the subtle irony of these situations. "They'll learn quickly if we're thorough," she said. Together, they conducted a full-day audit. By mid-afternoon, Lena had identified nearly 20 issues, some operational, some cultural, and some deeply embedded in management attitudes. When she presented her findings to the executive team, a mix of disbelief and embarrassment spread across the room. One senior manager, who had previously dismissed her as just a consultant, turned red with anger. Lena remained calm. "Excellence," she said, "is not a title. It is the result of listening, observing, and acting honestly. Pretending to be global while ignoring the talent right in front of you will always fail." The room went silent. Victor, standing at the back, gave her a small nod. That nod had become her measure of validation, far more meaningful than any applause. Back in her office that night, Lena reflected on her journey. From the unnoticed maid at the Golden Orchid to an influential consultant in Victor Liang's organization, she had come a long way, but the lesson that had guided her every step remained unchanged. Talent sees opportunities, excellence demands courage, and the world rewards those who quietly insist on being seen for what they are. A message popped up on her laptop, an invitation from an international hospitality association to speak at their upcoming global forum. Lena leaned back, a faint smile on her lips. She remembered the first time she had spoken Mandarin in that hotel lobby. That single, courageous moment had changed everything. The Golden Orchid, Victor's projects, the countless hotels she would audit in the future. All of it reminded her that transformation was not just about personal success. It was about creating ripples that others could feel, teaching institutions that true value lies not in appearances, but in recognizing the unseen. Victor's final words to her during that first month had stayed with her. "You don't speak until it matters, Lena. And when you do, the world will listen." Now, months later, Lena realized that the world wasn't just listening, it was learning. And as she prepared for the next conference, the next audit, the next challenge, she understood something even deeper. The maid who once went unnoticed had become a symbol, not a status, but of truth, excellence, and resilience. Her story had started with a single Mandarin phrase in a hotel lobby. It had ended, not with applause, but with transformation. And that transformation would continue, quietly, powerfully, in ways the world had never expected.